Hey, good evening, good evening, good evening. I am Tamara Johnson Shealy, candidate for the United States Senate right here in Georgia with the campaign update with my trusty co-host, Mr. Carl Smith. We're going to start talking about bottom-up economics, continue to talk about bottom-up economics, reparations, and all the things that can help with the new administration in driving this economy. I just saw where um, the votes were cast in the Senate. Let's bring Carl in. Maybe he want to dive into this conversation. Good evening, Carl.
Hey, how are you?
How are you?
Good.
Did you see that they did not impeach?
Well, that's more surprising, but you basically, when the defendant can basically intimidate the jury, controls or works with the prosecution, and can intimidate witnesses. What kind of fair trial can there be?
America is just in a sad place. It's a sad, sad place that we're in. And that speech last night, Carl, I just literally wanted to just kick my television screen, just kick it over. I'm like, I mean,
Right.
how great everything is, the economy, unemployment is low, and just all these lies,
Right.
lies,
Well,
Carl.
he takes credit for what he doesn't doesn't deserve, and then he basically you know paints the wrong picture about anything that he attacks anybody that if he's doing something he'll accuse somebody else of doing it, so it makes it look like the same thing, even if he's like if compared like a Al Capone against a petty thief. He'll try to equate those, but he's the Al Capone of a lot of this bullshit.
Exactly. This election year is so important on so many levels, and we just got to get it right. And we got to encourage people to come to the polls. Like, we have to give them a reason. We have to help them to understand why this is important, but we have to make it important to them. It can't be, it's important for some people and not important to everybody. We have to really have conversations that are specific to all of our voters, because if not, we're this is it. I mean, this man, if he has 4 more years, we can see the damage now. Imagine 4 more years of this.
Right. Well, I call it the GOP. I'm sorry, I'm a little tired tonight. GOP three-step, and basically they cut taxes at the top, they cut the regulations, and so on, and they basically do three things that collapse, or it takes a while to kick in, but after 8-year period, the economy's going over the cliff.
Mhm.
So cutting out regular, he's going to cut like in the next cycle, he would cut all the basic public investments, and that's money that was going down or is going down in the bottom economy getting spent quickly, and also having long-term effects of healthy and educated people and stuff. You cut all that stuff back, and you start cutting back Social Security and these kinds of things. That's money that's spent quickly. All of a sudden, it's going to disappear. So then, what do businesses do when they have less or fewer customers with money? They cut back, and which creates even fewer customers with money and also less tax revenue. So the tax revenues that these things are supposed to save end up disappearing. So Bush did it. He did these three things during his 8-year period, and it had the economy going over a cliff. Now the Trump GOP is doing the same things in a much more dramatic fashion. So we're going to have, things might look, in some ways good, but it's a house of cards in that, he's spending $1 trillion, or he's running up the debt by $1 trillion a year to get a superficially nice looking economy. But, most people haven't really benefited from it. So there's continues to be income, huge income disparity and all of these things. And then it's just like I said, it's an economy with really out a good foundation, and so that then things will basically make it will upset it, and it'll then we'll have a recession at best, but it could be much worse.
So let's talk about what we can do. Let's talk
Right.
about what the plan is for when I'm elected, and how we can move this economy forward for all of us.
Right. So If we're going to do a kind of a quick recap over, basically, it's about understanding. It's getting everybody understand how when we help people, we create more opportunities for people and businesses. These investments actually do pay off. So if you go to the second slide, so in recapping what we've covered, so go ahead and go to the second slide. Oh, there we go. Okay, so it's getting people to think about what are both our businesses and our people need to thrive, and businesses need to exist and succeed. Go to the next slide. So there's a set of things what I call our basic public investments. That's education, research, health, infrastructure, community development, safe community, and safety nets. And guess what? Next slide. Our businesses need the exact same things, to exist. Most of our businesses would not exist without the research that's been done in the past. Most of them wouldn't exist without healthy and educated people, without infrastructure, and all these things. So is this socialism when we want to increase our investments in these things, or is it really enabling capitalism? And that's really what it is. It's enabled capitalism. It's not taking over people's businesses, and it's not nationalizing our industries and taking your property. This is enabled capitalism and not socialism. So if you go to, let's see, slide number 7. So bottom-up economics, if you look at, if you're kind of from an outsider's point of view, looking at it, it's basically 3 things. It's bottom-up economics. It's those set of investments or basic public investments. It's valuing all workers. And we value all workers. Guess what? Now there's more customers than money. What do businesses need? Maybe, when do they hire and expand and all that? When they have more customers than money. So, paying people better is not just a morally right thing, for a livable wage and all that, equal work for equal pay, or equal pay for equal work and so on. It's also economically smart, and it actually expands the economy. Some of the same jobs that we have up here for policemen, for skilled labor and everything. If you look in third world countries, they have those same kinds of jobs, but they pay just a fraction, even in their own economies. And those people are in poverty instead of being in the middle class like they are here. And then obviously we need a fair system. Without fairness, then the top, the connected, and all those, they get all the opportunities, and then the rest of us we really don't get the opportunity. So you want a fair system on top of that. So bottom-up economics is those 3 things. All right, skip down to the 11th slide. I'm sorry. The 11th slide. So a basic macroeconomic principle, just the one of few basic principles that we need to understand here, is it's all about the speed of money economy. The economy shrinks and expands, or expands depending on the speed of money in the economy. Next slide. So if we want to grow the economy, all we have to do is speed up money. So, and that basically creates more jobs, creates tax revenues, or creates more tax revenues, and that bigger economy. Speeding up money economy just means that that every transaction somebody gets it, they spend it quicker. They invest in or they spend, invest, whatever, quicker. If you do that slowly, those transactions happen slowly, it slows down money economy. Those transactions happen quickly, it speeds up and expands the economy. It actually, so you could have $1 trillion in the economy, and if nobody ever spent it, your economy would be of size 0.
So let me stop you there, Carl, and let me ask you, this makes perfect sense to me, but do you think there's some underlying reason beyond the financial part of it? Like this makes sense to me. Like, is there another reason that they won't? Because this is where David and I talk about like all the other factors, because this just makes too much sense to me.
Right. Well, some people have talked about it, but it just doesn't, they don't go far enough. With it. Obama talked about, that money is spent quickly and stuff when we get it into that, that workers' hands, and, we do projects and everything. They, he talks about it getting spent quickly and everything, but they just don't, Clinton talked about the math, but they just don't go quite far enough in explaining, explaining the next few steps. to
So do
them.
you think that it's not that they don't know? It may be beyond the explanation, and maybe it's not that they don't know. Maybe they just don't care, and it's greed, it's selfishness, it's some other things that influence
Well,
why we're in the place that we're in.
I think that, well, economics can be pretty complex when you talk about all sorts of, derivatives, and there's a lot of complex things within the within economics and so on. And what, but the important thing is to look at the main drivers, because if you don't have those main drivers and explain those main drivers, where everybody understands them. It's like, for example, a car, is not. I mean, a car is incredibly complex, and yet, most people have the basics. They know that they have to put gas in the gas tank for them to go, or else they're going to run out of gas. They know that they have air in the tires, and then, if they want to be comfortable inside, they need to have, the heating and air conditioning system working, and so on. And they know they need a key, some sort of key or starting system, to start it up, and so on. So they know the basics, stop and go and turning, and all of that. That's what we need people, more of people.
So do you think? So do you think that's why they don't vote, because they don't understand this, or they
Well, I
don't?
think it's because for, like when the GOP, talks about, well, we're going to give more money to the job creators, and we're going to get government out of your way. And they've been poo-poo on government, that government can't do anything right. And they'll come up with examples, and, what business, what family, what person is 100% efficient. You can always come up with examples of something not working right. So they've got this, the population, thinking, well, government can't do anything right. That's far from the truth. Government does a ton of things right. So, but it sounds, they've drilled in that message. Okay, government can't do anything right. We got to get government out of the way, and we've got to get the job creators more money. So tax cuts for the rich. That sounds like it makes sense. But, and the Democrats talk about, well, we're going to get more money to the to people. We're going to invest in education, health, and all of that. And the GOP has all said, well, that we don't want to give money to the takers, and so these programs kind of pitched as, well, free college education or this and that, that it sounds like, more money, just handouts, government handouts, versus we the people investing in ourselves, investments that do pay off. When we invest in people's educations, and we invest in their health, they produce, they have higher incomes over their life. They have, they don't need as much, help, and so on, and they pay a lot more tax revenue. And
So let me.
they
So I'm gonna
really
go back.
pay for themselves.
So I'm gonna go back to my question. So this seems like, and I know, and Shamika just said it too. She just said it's a valid question, Tamara. Everything he is saying seems to be common sense, and it is to us. It makes common sense. But when we're talking about these legislators, there's something more to why they're not. I don't think they don't understand this at all. I think there's something more to why they're not doing the right thing.
Well, there is a mantra within like the GOP that that it can't be about, it's not, government doesn't do things for you, and they've got this idealized version of capitalism. If you just get government out of the way, then capitalism does. I mean, I think a lot of them actually do believe that. The problem is, without government, businesses don't even exist, not just because of the basic public investments, but in just creating the laws that allow business and commerce to occur, to allow corporations and other business entities to even exist. I mean, if everybody just does their own thing, all it is chaos. So you absolutely need government, to that's state, local, and federal entities to create the rule systems and then also enforce them and that. And then also make the investments. And individual businesses do not, create their own, they don't educate the employees that they need. They don't, healthcare, the health of an individual is a function of their health since birth. I think people don't really kind of boil out these few basic principles and really understand them at a deep level. And that's what that's what we have to do. For example, I say, well, how are we going to pay for, or what's often asked for, if we want to have single payer health care, or if we want to educate more people, provide education for people no matter their economic status. The very first question is, well, how are we going to pay for that? And what I'm saying is that's the wrong question. It's like, how are we going to kickstart it? Because we understand how this works, except that we, like for global warming, they say, well, we're going to have to come up with $25 trillion to pay for it. It's like, okay, we're going to get that $25 trillion. That's the wrong way to look at it, because what you do is you don't have to actually come up with that $25 trillion. You come up with the first, few $100 billion, you start investing it in, in the research and some infrastructure and some other things. And then that gets money in the bottom economy. It starts speeding up, it has a positive effect on the economy, has a stimulus effect. And then you're going to get years to decades of payback from new research and the infrastructure that's created and all that. So, so yes, you kick, so they say it's $25 trillion over a 30-year period. Well, we don't have to come up with $25 trillion. We don't have to identify all that up front. We just have to identify the first little bit. And even if you do deficit spending, like right now, the president is transferring, hundreds of billions of dollars from our national debt to the wealthy. Well,
let's take a commercial break, Paul. Let's take a commercial break. I know, like I say, economics can be it can be a very it's a lot to learn, it's a lot to understand, but a lot of this stuff that Carl has been giving us, it makes a lot of common sense to me. And I think that there's some underlying factor that, greed, racism. I think there are underlying factors to why we're just not moving in the right direction with what this country needs. But I'm just going to give you a quick campaign update for a commercial break. I am still running strong, everybody. The month of January, I can't believe it's already here and it's gone. And we're, already into the first week of February. I haven't been doing a whole lot of asking as far as my fundraising. I thought that a lot of you needed a break. I want to thank all of you that donated to me during over the holidays. I know that giving, over the holidays is when you have family and friends and, children, of course, it can be tight. So I want to thank all of you that were able to make contributions. We're up and running. I'm excited about this campaign. We have 3 events coming up. We have a dinner with the senator this coming Sunday, future senator, I like to say. That is this coming Sunday, February the 9th. At Pascal, 6 p.m. We have a meet and greet at the bar for those of you that just want to come and hang out. Come and meet and greet. Let's get to know each other. That is this Sunday, February the 9th at Pascal's. It's on the website, tamaraforgeorgia.com. Just go to the go to the fundraisers page. Then on February the 16th, we have the movie premiere of Justice on Trial. You are serious about, this, our reparations agenda, this movie will totally speak to that. I'm excited that we have an opportunity to be a part of this premiere. It was a phenomenal stage play, and I am excited about seeing this movie. So that's February the 16th. And for those of you that don't know, March the 2nd is qualifying day for me, but it is National ADOS Day here at the Capitol here in Georgia. So for those of you that are not in Georgia, or if you're close enough, please come close. If you're close enough to drive, or if you can just get here, please come. That is March the 2nd. I will qualify for the United States Senate, in addition to us having a day at the Capitol where we can meet and greet with legislators, get a tour, and get an opportunity to get a feel for what it's like here on a state level in politics. So again, that's 3 events coming up, February the 9th, February the 16th, and March the 2nd. Carl, you ready to dive in? I know we're going to finish these slides tonight, so let's dive back into the
go ahead and go to the next
conversation.
Go ahead and go to the next slide.
Okay.
So when we slow down money, it's what it means is that we're actually firing people, creating less tax revenue, and shrinking the economy. So when we cut back on our basic public investments, what the Republicans want to do next, this is the effect that's going to happen. The next slide. So what we need everybody to understand, and in Democrat, the Republicans talk about it in a little bit both ways. When it serves them, they'll talk about it as like when they do tax cuts for the rich. So that was supposed to stimulate the economy, right? And grow the economy. So but on the other hand, all our anytime we want to spend money, they talk about it as, well, what are we going to cut? To help one person, we got to hurt somebody else. And the reality economy is not a fixed size pie. So next slide. When we speed up money in the economy, it's a bigger pie. So we all can get more. And then, so if we unrig the system, go ahead, next slide. We won't have so much where some people have lots of pie and everybody else doesn't. All right, let's go down to the slide number 18. So for a prosperous and shared economy, we need our basic public investments up there in the upper left, along with our, if you want to point to those things, along with our valuing all of our workers. That speeds up money economy, the little tornado there, and plus a fair system creates that bigger pie, and then all our businesses and people. So this is not about just benefiting the people, it's about benefiting business and the economy as well. Okay, let's go to slide number 22. And you can watch all this online. It's animated video. Go ahead and go to slide number 22 at votereducationproject.com, and then HBUEW, How Bottom-Up Economics Works, or just go to the videos section, and you'll see that video there. Okay, so basically it's our BPIs puts lots of money in the bottom economy that speeds up, and the animation shows the middle part just kind of circulating around, and so it's creating more customers and money. It's businesses hire and expand. That puts the economy, it speeds up the economy. And then the next things, we have that stimulus. Go ahead, next slide. We have a stimulus effect, which is generating more state, local, and federal tax revenues. And that's actually feeding back into and actually helping pay for. So, the money, we don't have to say, okay, we need to come up with X amount of dollars. If something's going to cost X amount of dollars, we're going to start spending that. Even in the same monetary cycle, it will start offsetting its own costs. Okay, next slide. And then businesses hire and expand, and which creates more customers, more money, and that that actually creates more. So this is a positive feedback loop, expand money. So if we put money, like even in the reparations and so on, if we put it in a where it has these leveraged effects, then it's going to speed up money. It's going to create more. It's going to create more customers with money, which will help help everybody, the farmer across the country, all sorts of business owners, from small business and Main Street all the way to Wall Street, and everybody will benefit, from these. So it's not like that money gets stuck in a place. It's going in the economy, speeding up the economy. All right. So then number 25, and then we get years to decades of payback from educated and healthy people. As we move people from lower social economic levels to upwards, or from poverty into middle class, they create lots of more tax revenues, so they'll end up paying for the investments we make into them. Okay, next slide. And then also there's fewer expenses as people do better. They cost less, so there's all sorts of good savings there. And slide number 28. So this is really us investing in ourselves, Americans, and we're great investments. So this isn't, giving money to the takers and everything. It's investing and creating opportunities for both our businesses and our people. And then go to the slide number 29. But, the GOP 3-step here, they're going to want to cut our basic public investments, which will end up killing more tax revenue than saving. And that starts the economy, instead of expanding it, it has a shrinking effect. And so unless you have something else offsetting it, then the economy starts really, eating away at itself and starting to go over the cliff. And this can, And then investors pull back and business pulls back, business fires and all that. And then next slide. And then you have years to decades. If you don't educate people, if you don't create research, that if you stop doing that stuff, then those things have years to decades of negative payback. Or basically where we never got that. It starts shrinking the economy. So our economy can implode. All right. Let's skip down. Well, let's go. Okay, 31. I think we stop there. Next slide, 31. All right, so why should we pay for other people's healthcare or education? Well, our businesses, they need healthy and educated people. Our economy basically will expand if we do this. So even so we have a lot more productivity from healthy and educated people and stuff. And if we only had the people that are be healthy and educated, if they have the money to make those investments in themselves, we have far few people that our business community needs to hire to have the strongest economy. If we expect to remain the strongest economy in the world, we need to make these investments. We are that now because we've made these investments in the past. Next slide. And when we don't do these things, then we make beggars out of many people, including veterans and first responders, families of sick children and stuff. Begging for money. That just, to me, every time I see one of those commercials and stuff, I just say, this is just wrong. They shouldn't have to beg for money. And when we deny education and training, while our businesses have millions of unfilled jobs that right now we're given to foreign workers. That's just wrong. I have nothing against foreign workers, but we should be first educating our own citizens for these jobs. Mm-hmm. Okay, and then so the next slide. So cuts to our BPIs. I mean, should we really increase or shrink them? So what cuts do is that it slows the money economy, it shrinks the economy, it decreases tax revenues, near and long-term harm, economic and non-economic costs, lots of them. If we increase our investments in our BPI, since money speeds up money economy, expands the economy, increases tax revenues, near and long-term economic benefits. And now this is a win. It's where if we want to create a win-win-win-win-win, we need to invest in ourselves. Invest in all of our citizens. Next slide. Coming down to the last couple of things here. So these things, every time the GOP says this is socialism, this left wing radical wingnut stuff. No, this is fiscally responsible economics investments. Just think if every family thought, well, if we don't spend the time and the effort to get an education or to buy a house or whatever, we just wait until we can actually afford to do it, then we do it. And if they have to come up with all the money to buy their first house, not many of us would have houses if we had to have all the money up front to get an education and everything, or we self-funded all of our children's education, everything. A lot of our our kids would not be educated. In our economy, we would be a third world economy at this point if we did things that way. So go ahead and let's go to the final slide here. So this is, so that was actually go back to that slide. So it's not socialism that they want.
That one.
This is not socialism when we do these investments. We need to remind people what socialism is. Think of three things. Socialism would mean we're going to nationalize our industries. We would, take your businesses and take your property and stuff, and everything would be, the property of the government or all the people, and so that's socialism, right? Democrats are not socialists, and this whole thing of democratic socialism is a misnomer. Those European economies that are supposed to be democratic socialisms, they're not. They're capitalistic systems, but they do provide healthcare and there's free college and all of that stuff, because those are investments. It's not just good for the people, it's good for business and the economies as well. So it's not socialism, it's enabled capitalism. Mm-hmm. Because capitalism itself, if you think of every business only being able to hire people that that maybe the richer people got to educate their kids, and and only people that happen to have good health, and but healthcare was really hard to get and all that. you know, uh, Not too, the economy would about 5 or 10% the size of it is. It's like very few. It doesn't get things going. It takes these common investments, to make a market system and a capitalistic system work. All right. So next slide, 35. All right. So, if we can get the light bulb to go off for everybody, that it takes those three things. It's bottom up economics, and nobody's ever explained it in this way. Where we created a simple model looking at the most important factors of what drives our economy: our basic public investments, valuing our workers, and a fair system. And see how that basically creates that prosperous and shared economy. So yeah, we can have a prosperous economy where maybe the stock market's doing good, the wealthy are doing very good, but way too many Americans are living paycheck to paycheck, or in poverty, and that wealth disparity is continuing to increase. And every year, the GOP blocks us from raising the minimum wage and blocks equal pay for equal work. That's a cut, because basically there's a small inflation rate, a few percent. So if you haven't raised those every year, they're doing it. They're actually cutting it. In real terms, they're cutting your buying power. So it's the GOP that's in the way, not government. We need to get the GOP out of the way, because Democrats will invest. Tamara's going to invest in education, in research, in pulling people out of poverty, and in healthcare, and all of these things, and getting people, instead of sending them to prison, getting them into the workforce. If you educate people early, instead of having that education to, or school to prison pipeline, you bust that up so that people there, they have more opportunities. Now they're getting into jobs, and instead of costing $90,000 a year, they're making money and they're paying taxes and stuff. So this is we can create that prosperous and shared economy. This is the frickin' 21st century. It just frustrates the hell out of me when we're thinking backwards. To where, and not that many over 100 years ago, 90% of our population was in poverty. We don't want to go back there. There's policies that didn't allow us to get out of that until we started making these critical investments. And if we get away from those investments, then we'll continue this income inequality, expansion of that. And really, not, the American dream, just won't be there for way too many of us. And
I want to thank you, Carl.
We should be taking poverty down to the 0.1%, 8%, whatever it is today, 8-9%, poverty rate. That's just way too high. Close to 10% of us, 35 million people or 30 million people are in poverty, with the kind of, today in the 21st century, really, we can do better than that. And as Tamara and I have talked about, it's like, I don't know who said it first or whatever, but, when we know better, we should do better. We know better. Come on, people. But we gotta vote for the right people that will help make this happen.
So Carl has been with us for what? This is week 4, right, Carl? Like you've been talking economics for 4 straight weeks. I hope that you guys have gotten a lot from him. I think he's phenomenal. He has a lot of great information. I have learned a lot, and I'm still learning. And I just know that, we have to change this country, and we have to change those in power, because those that are in power now are not making the right decisions for us. So I want to thank you, Carl. Let me put up his information. You can find Carl, Bottom Up Economics, at votereducationproject.com. I am Tamara Johnson Shealy. I know we went over our half hour, but I wanted Carl to get it all out, because, we've spent 4 weeks of hopefully educating you guys beyond what we think we know. And a lot of it, like I said, makes common sense. And we just need to be able to, as Democrats, carry this message and carry this agenda straight to Washington. So Carl, thank you again for joining me for these last 4 weeks. And I hope that you will come back.
All right. Very good. Thank you.
Have a good night, everybody.